Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, now I want to talk about something that is pretty interesting. I think you're going to find this interesting, especially because it's so predictive as to exactly what is happening here this month. What's going on? And the chart that I'm going to display to you is called the Inauguration chart. So I call this Inauguration Day. And whenever a president is sworn in, you take the chart of that day and that time, and it will tell you about the 4-year, the whole time that they're president, what to expect. And pulling up this Inauguration Day chart, which was January 20th of 2021, when President Biden was sworn in as the President of the United States, the first thing that jumped off the chart was the fact that Uranus and Mars were conjunct in this chart. And I know if you go back, I talked about this a lot that year of 2021, because what does that tell you? Unexpected violence. Something that happened unexpectedly, and a big happening, huge. Uranus is unexpected, sudden events, and Mars is violence, and they're in Aries, which, you know, is extreme violence. What happened? Right around this time, they had the riot in the White House. People breaking in, the flags, the people, they call it the insurrection, whatever you want to call it. It was mass chaos is what it was. There was people revolting. They were having a big, violent, although there weren't that many people killed, thank goodness, but a big chaotic riot that broke into the White House. That's Mars-Uranus. And actually with that, I would have thought it would have been even worse from the looks of that Mars-Uranus. But you know, this predicted that riot, that big, I don't want to call it a protest, it was a riot. People were angry and up in arms. They were totally against, they were angry. They were totally against the outcome of the elections. That's what that was all about. Very interesting that that happened. But now, this chart is a birth chart, and it deals with the entire presidency that President Biden, for 4 years, it represents the whole entire time. So what do you do with this chart? You look at where the transiting planets continue to move across this birth chart. And the reason why I'm bringing it up right now is look where the moon is in this chart. It sits at 4 degrees of Aries. And that is very, very significant. Why? Because of the fact that Rahu and Ketu, right now, as we speak, this month, are at 4 degrees of Aries and Libra. So Rahu is sitting over the moon in this chart. And inauguration begins at 12 noon, so we do have a time here. And Rahu is sitting on the moon. The moon is the most sensitive part of a chart. It's the emotional body. And Rahu goes to great extremes. It's on the moon. The moon rules the 4th house here in this chart. And actually the 4th house is called the seat of power. But Rahu is extraordinarily disruptive. And it means right now things are being disrupted in President Biden's presidency. And you might know too that President Biden's natal moon sits at 7 degrees of Aries. Now, Rahu's already crossed over it, but what's happening with that is the transit of Saturn. It's going to go back to 6 degrees and station between this month through the end of the year. So between now and the end of the year, President Biden has a rough time coming. And it's now that it's all hitting based on this inauguration chart. Absolutely now. And even so, that we look at Rahu, Ketu sits in the 7th house. And the 7th house deals with opponents. So he's got a lot of opponents opposing him right now. But I thought it might be fascinating to bring up this chart in terms of what is going on for the president and his presidency. So all those planets, and always in the inauguration chart, we have the sun in Capricorn, because this is the day, January 20th, that inauguration always occurs. So the sun's always next to the midheaven there in Capricorn. And we have the nodal axes. It actually, the sun sits and the midheaven sits right at the midpoint of where transiting Rahu and Ketu are transiting right now. So there is a big turnover and a big change occurring within this presidency for the whole time that Rahu is in Aries and Ketu is in Libra. And they will change by the time of the end of November, November 28th, of this year, 2023. So during this time, we're going to see a huge changeover. Another thing that's been going on that is causing a big changeover for the United States is the fact that Pluto is returning to where it was with the birth of the nation. So we're calling this the Pluto return. And this represents major change and major transformations. Big things are happening, huge changes. And one more thing I might add, and I'm going to teach you guys about this, is the Brigue point. The Brigue point sits for this chart at 29 degrees of Libra. Now, why is this significant? Because and the Brigue point, by the way, is called the destiny point of a chart. And what it essentially is the midpoint between the moon and Rahu. And so you can see this Brigue point is actually opposite where you would think it is, but it sits at 29 degrees of Libra. But what's so important about this Brigue point is Uranus is opposing it. So that's another indication. Uranus sits at 28 degrees today. It's going to move up to about 29 and station. And it's stationing this month at 28, 29 degrees, almost 29, but still 28. When it stations, there are sudden, unexpected changes to the destiny of this presidency. So I thought you might be interested to see how we could look at the birth of things, not just people, to see a result of many things that we're trying to look at, whether it's the start of a marriage, the start of a business. Everything has a birth chart. This is the start, the inauguration of President Biden, and you can see the evolvement of where things are going as the planets continue to move and transit over the planets in this birth chart. So with that, I think I'll close. This is giving us a lot to think about. And once again, if you would like to sign up for my free newsletter, go to my website, galacticcenter.org. Sign up. You'll get all of my predictions delivered to your email address every week. And while you're at my website, don't forget, you can look at all the many things I have offered, consultations, as well as my magazine that comes out monthly, all online, Joni Patry's Astrology Insights. And shooting stars. If you want to join a group of people that want to expand their awareness, consciousness, and manifest the things and goals they want in their life, become part of this group. We meet weekly and you will love it. So don't forget, last but not least, I have a whole university online that teaches Vedic astrology. If this has sparked your interest, go to universityofvedicastrology.com, and my website is galacticcenter.org. Thank you.